Intelligence is not a single, monolithic force that flows uniformly through the human mind. It is stratified, layered, and hierarchical, a complex architecture of understanding that determines not just how we think, but who we become. Most people live their entire lives unaware that their intelligence operates on multiple levels, each with its own characteristics, limitations, and potential for transformation. The ancient philosophers understood this truth intuitively. They recognized that wisdom was not merely the accumulation of facts or the speed of mental processing, but something far more profound, a systematic progression through increasingly sophisticated modes of consciousness. Today, we can map this progression with greater precision, identifying 7 distinct levels of intelligence that form the ladder of human understanding. Each level represents not just a different way of thinking, but a fundamentally different way of experiencing reality. Those who operate primarily at the lower levels see a world of simple cause and effect, black and white distinctions, and immediate gratifications. As one ascends through the levels, reality becomes increasingly complex, nuanced, and interconnected. The highest levels of intelligence operate in realms that would seem almost mystical to those trapped in the lower tiers, not because they involve supernatural phenomena, but because they engage with patterns and possibilities that require extraordinary cognitive sophistication to perceive. Understanding these levels is crucial because it reveals an uncomfortable truth: the vast majority of human suffering, conflict, and failure stems from the inability to operate beyond the first 3 or 4 levels of intelligence. Wars are fought by level 2 minds convinced of their righteousness. Economies collapse under the weight of level 3 thinking that cannot see beyond quarterly profits. Relationships crumble when partners operate at incompatible intellectual levels, unable to bridge the gap between their fundamentally different ways of processing reality. But there is hope embedded within this hierarchy. Unlike fixed traits such as height or eye color, intellectual level is not immutable. Through deliberate practice, careful observation, and the systematic destruction of limiting mental patterns, individuals can ascend through these levels. The key lies in recognizing that each transition requires not just learning new information, but fundamentally rewiring how the mind processes information itself. The journey through these 7 levels mirrors the ancient alchemical process of transformation. Just as base metals were thought to be transmuted into gold through a series of purifications and refinements, the human mind can be elevated from crude, reactive intelligence to sophisticated, creative consciousness. This transformation is not merely intellectual, it affects every aspect of one's existence, from personal relationships to professional success to the very quality of one's inner experience. The title of this exploration references a profound truth articulated by Niccolò Machiavelli, though the principle extends far beyond his political philosophy. The man who destroys his weak self, meaning the limited, reactive, unconscious aspects of his personality, becomes invulnerable to external manipulation and destruction. This is because he has internalized the very forces that previously threatened him from without. He has become his own harshest critic, his own most demanding teacher, his own most relentless pursuer of excellence. This internal transformation is possible only through understanding and ascending the levels of intelligence. Each level that one masters provides immunity to the manipulations and limitations of all levels below it. A person operating at level 5 consciousness cannot be deceived by level 2 propaganda, manipulated by level 3 emotional appeals, or trapped by level 4 systematic thinking. They have internalized and transcended these modes of operation. The 7 levels form a natural progression, each building upon the foundation of the previous while adding new dimensions of sophistication. Like a spiral staircase, one may revisit similar themes and challenges at different levels, but always from a higher vantage point that reveals previously hidden aspects of reality. Level 1, instinctive intelligence, operates in the realm of immediate survival and basic pattern recognition. This is the intelligence of the newborn child, the frightened animal, and the human being under extreme stress. It is concerned primarily with pleasure and pain, safety and danger, immediate needs and their satisfaction. While crucial for survival, prolonged operation at this level results in reactive, impulsive behavior that lacks strategic thinking or long-term planning. People operating primarily at level 1 are easily manipulated through appeals to their basic fears and desires. They respond to immediate stimuli without considering broader context or long-term consequences. Their decision-making process is largely unconscious, driven by genetic programming and learned associations rather than deliberate analysis. This level of intelligence is necessary but not sufficient for complex human existence. Level 2, Tribal intelligence introduces the concept of group identity and social hierarchy. This level recognizes that survival and prosperity often depend on one's position within a social structure. It develops sophisticated abilities to read social cues, understand group dynamics, and navigate hierarchical relationships. However, it remains fundamentally limited by its inability to see beyond the immediate social context. Level 2 intelligence manifests in strong in-group loyalty coupled with suspicion or hostility toward outgroups. It thinks in terms of us versus them and finds comfort in clearly defined social roles and expectations. This level can be highly effective within stable social structures but becomes problematic when dealing with rapid change, cultural diversity, or complex moral questions that transcend simple group loyalties. The transition from Level 1 to Level 2 represents humanity's first great intellectual leap, the development of social consciousness. However, those who remain stuck at Level 2 often become trapped in ideological thinking, unable to question the assumptions of their chosen group or consider perspectives that challenge their tribal identity. Level 3, Systematic intelligence marks the emergence of abstract reasoning and the ability to think in terms of systems, rules, and logical structures. This level can step back from immediate social pressures and emotional reactions to analyze situations objectively. It develops skills in planning, organization, and strategic thinking that allow for much greater effectiveness in achieving goals. People operating at Level 3 can maintain logical consistency across different domains of their lives. They can delay gratification for long-term benefits, create and follow complex plans, and understand cause and effect relationships that span extended periods of time. This level of intelligence enables the development of science, technology, complex organizations, and systematic approaches to problem solving. However, Level 3 intelligence has its own limitations. It tends toward rigidity, overconfidence in logical analysis, and difficulty dealing with paradox, ambiguity, or situations that require intuitive leaps. Level 3 thinkers often become trapped in their own systematic frameworks, unable to recognize when their models no longer serve them or when reality transcends their analytical categories. The ascent to higher levels requires recognizing that systematic intelligence, while powerful, is still a tool rather than ultimate truth. The systems we create to understand reality are maps, not territories, and the wise person learns to hold them lightly while remaining open to their revision or abandonment. Part 2, the middle levels integration and transcendence. Level 4, integrative intelligence represents a quantum leap in cognitive sophistication. This level recognizes the limitations of purely systematic thinking and develops the ability to work with multiple systems simultaneously, understanding their interactions, contradictions, and higher-order patterns. Level 4 intelligence is characterized by cognitive flexibility, comfort with paradox, and the ability to synthesize seemingly incompatible perspectives into more comprehensive understandings. Where Level 3 seeks to eliminate contradictions through logical analysis, Level 4 recognizes that apparent contradictions often reveal deeper truths about the multifaceted nature of reality. This level can hold opposing ideas in creative tension, allowing for more nuanced and sophisticated approaches to complex problems. It develops strong pattern recognition abilities that can detect subtle relationships and emerging trends that are invisible to lower levels of analysis. Level 4 intelligence manifests in several key characteristics. First, it demonstrates intellectual humility, the recognition that any single perspective, no matter how well developed, captures only a portion of reality. This humility enables continuous learning and adaptation, as the Level 4 mind remains open to new information that might require significant revision of existing beliefs and models. Second, this level develops sophisticated emotional intelligence alongside cognitive abilities. It recognizes that emotions contain valuable information about reality and that purely rational analysis often misses crucial aspects of human experience. Level 4 thinkers can integrate logical analysis with emotional wisdom, intuitive insights, and aesthetic sensibilities to create more complete understandings. Third, Level 4 intelligence excels at working across different domains and disciplines, recognizing that the boundaries between fields of knowledge are often artificial constructs that limit understanding. This level naturally thinks in terms of interdisciplinary synthesis, drawing insights from diverse sources to address complex challenges. The transition to level 4 often occurs through exposure to genuine complexity that cannot be resolved through lower-level approaches. This might come through advanced education, diverse life experiences, significant failures that reveal the limitations of previous thinking patterns, or encounters with genuinely superior minds that demonstrate higher possibilities. People operating at level 4 often find themselves frustrated with the limitations of those operating at lower levels, particularly in institutional settings where level 2 and level 3 thinking dominates. They may be seen as overly complex, indecisive, or impractical by those who prefer simple, systematic solutions. Learning to communicate effectively across levels becomes a crucial skill for level 4 individuals. Level 5, creative intelligence transcends the need for external systems and frameworks, developing the ability to generate novel solutions and insights through direct engagement with reality. This level operates through intuitive leaps, creative synthesis, and the spontaneous emergence of new possibilities. While it incorporates and can utilize all lower levels of intelligence, it is not bound by their limitations. Level 5 intelligence is characterized by what psychologists call flow states, periods of effortless, focused concentration where solutions emerge spontaneously and performance reaches extraordinary levels. This level has learned to trust its intuitive processes while maintaining the ability to apply rational analysis when appropriate. The creative intelligence of level 5 manifests differently in different individuals, depending on their natural talents and areas of focus. In some, it appears as artistic genius, the ability to create works that capture previously unexpressed aspects of human experience. In others, it manifests as entrepreneurial innovation, the capacity to see opportunities and possibilities that others miss. In still others, it appears as social or emotional genius, the ability to understand and influence human behavior at profound levels. What unifies all manifestations of level 5 intelligence is the ability to work directly with the generative principles underlying reality rather than being limited to rearranging existing elements. Level 5 minds can perceive the underlying patterns that give rise to surface phenomena and can therefore influence reality at more fundamental levels. This level requires the development of what might be called negative capability, the ability to remain in uncertainty and doubt without irritably reaching after fact and reason. Level 5 intelligence can tolerate extended periods of not knowing, allowing solutions to emerge organically rather than forcing premature closure through systematic analysis. The transition to level 5 often involves a period of apparent regression or confusion as the individual learns to release their attachment to purely rational approaches. This can be disorienting for those who have found identity and success through level 3 and level 4 capabilities. The key is learning to trust processes that cannot be fully explained or controlled through conscious will. Level 5 intelligence also develops what we might call temporal flexibility, the ability to operate effectively across different time horizons simultaneously. While lower levels tend to be locked into particular temporal perspectives, level 1 focuses on immediate gratification, level 2 on traditional patterns, level 3 on planned futures, level 5 can fluidly shift between short-term tactics and long-term vision, drawing insights from past patterns while remaining open to unprecedented possibilities. Level 6, Wisdom Intelligence represents the integration of intelligence with deep understanding of human nature, natural law, and the fundamental principles governing existence. This level transcends the need for creativity for its own sake and focuses intelligence in service of larger purposes, the betterment of humanity, the advancement of consciousness, the healing of fundamental divisions. Level 6 intelligence is characterized by what the ancients called Sophia, a combination of practical wisdom, ethical insight, and profound understanding of life's deeper patterns. This level sees clearly how different levels of intelligence operate, understanding the appropriate applications and limitations of each. It can work effectively with people at any level while gently encouraging their development toward higher capacities. Wisdom intelligence manifests as an ability to see the long-term consequences of actions and decisions across multiple generations. It recognizes that true solutions to human problems must address not just immediate symptoms but underlying patterns that create recurring difficulties. This level thinks in terms of sustainable systems that can evolve and adapt over extended periods while maintaining essential values and purposes. People operating at level 6 often find themselves in roles as teachers, healers, leaders, or advisors, positions where their developed intelligence can be used to benefit others. They have learned to use their capabilities not for personal aggrandizement but for the genuine service of larger purposes. This transition from ego-centered to purpose-centered motivation is one of the key characteristics distinguishing level 6 from lower levels. Level 6 intelligence also demonstrates what we might call compassionate objectivity, the ability to see situations clearly without being distorted by personal preferences or emotional reactions, while simultaneously maintaining deep care for the welfare of all involved. This level can deliver difficult truths with kindness, confront necessary conflicts with wisdom, and maintain hope in the face of apparent hopelessness. The development of wisdom intelligence requires extensive real-world experience combined with serious study of how consciousness operates. It cannot be achieved through intellectual study alone but emerges through the integration of knowledge with lived experience, particularly experience that involves responsibility for others' welfare and the navigation of genuinely complex moral and practical challenges. Part 3, the highest level and the path of transformation. Level 7, transcendent intelligence operates beyond the normal categories of human thought, engaging directly with the creative principles underlying existence itself. This level is rarely achieved and represents the summit of human intellectual development. It is characterized by the ability to perceive and work with reality at the level of fundamental principles rather than being limited to any particular manifestation or expression. Transcendent intelligence manifests as an understanding so complete that it no longer requires the scaffolding of concepts, systems, or even wisdom traditions to operate effectively. This level can perceive the unity underlying apparent diversity, the order within seeming chaos, and the intelligence inherent in natural processes. It operates through direct knowing rather than analytical thinking, though it can utilize any form of analysis when appropriate. People who achieve level 7 intelligence often appear simple or ordinary to those operating at lower levels because they no longer need to demonstrate their sophistication through complex explanations or impressive displays of knowledge. They speak and act with natural authority that stems not from position or credentials but from direct alignment with truth. Their presence tends to elevate others and create clarity in complex situations. This level is characterized by what we might call universal compassion, a deep understanding that all beings are engaged in the same fundamental process of development and that apparent conflicts and differences arise from limitations in perspective rather than fundamental incompatibilities. Level 7 intelligence sees through surface appearances to the underlying unity while respecting the necessity of apparent diversity for the full expression of consciousness. Transcendent intelligence also demonstrates effortless effectiveness, the ability to achieve significant results with minimal expenditure of energy through perfect alignment with natural forces and processes. This level has learned to work with reality rather than against it, finding the paths of least resistance that lead to maximum positive impact. The achievement of level 7 intelligence typically requires many years of dedicated development, including periods of intensive study, practical application, and often significant suffering that forces the release of limited perspectives. It cannot be reached through ambition or will alone but emerges naturally when all the lower levels have been fully integrated and transcended. Understanding these 7 levels reveals why the statement, "The man who destroys his weak self can never be destroyed by others," contains such profound truth. Each level of intelligence that one authentically achieves provides immunity to manipulation and limitation from all levels below it. The person who has developed level 4 integrative intelligence cannot be trapped by level 2 tribal thinking or level 3 systematic rigidity. The individual operating from level 6 wisdom cannot be deceived by appeals to any of the lower motivations. But the process of ascending through these levels requires the systematic dismantling of the psychological structures that keep one trapped at lower levels. Each transition involves what we might call a death and rebirth, the dissolution of old patterns of thinking and feeling that have provided security and identity, followed by the emergence of new capacities and perspectives. This process of self-transformation is what is meant by destroying the weak self. It does not involve self-hatred or destructive behavior but rather the careful dismantling of limiting beliefs, reactive patterns, and unconscious assumptions that prevent higher development. It requires becoming one's own most penetrating critic while maintaining compassion for the parts of oneself that resist change. The weak self consists of all the psychological patterns that keep intelligence trapped at lower levels, the need for social approval that maintains level 2 thinking, the attachment to being right that prevents level 4 integration, the ego investment in personal creativity that blocks level 6 wisdom. Each of these patterns served important functions at earlier stages of development but becomes an obstacle to further growth. The process of destroying these patterns requires what ancient traditions called spiritual discipline, systematic practices designed to strengthen higher capacities while weakening lower attachments. This might involve meditation practices that develop the ability to observe thoughts without being controlled by them, study programs that challenge existing beliefs and assumptions, service activities that shift focus from self-centered to other-centered motivation, or creative pursuits that develop capacities for original thinking. Perhaps most importantly, the path of development requires surrounding oneself with influences that model and encourage higher levels of intelligence. This is why traditional wisdom emphasized the importance of teachers, communities, and environments that embody the qualities one seeks to develop. Lower levels of intelligence naturally reinforce themselves through social confirmation and familiar patterns. Breaking free requires exposure to genuinely higher possibilities. The transformation process is not linear or predictable. Individuals may demonstrate level 5 capabilities in one domain while remaining trapped at level 2 in another. Stress, illness, or major life changes can temporarily reduce functional intelligence to lower levels. The goal is not perfection but, rather, the gradual expansion of one's capacity to operate at higher levels more consistently across different circumstances. One of the most important insights revealed through understanding these levels is that most social, political, and economic problems stem from the mismatch between the complexity of challenges and the level of intelligence available to address them. Global issues like climate change, economic inequality, and political polarization require at minimum level 4 integrative thinking to understand and level 5 or level 6 intelligence to solve. Yet most decision makers in positions of power operate primarily from level 2 or level 3 perspectives. This creates a crucial responsibility for those who develop higher levels of intelligence. They must find ways to influence and elevate the general level of consciousness rather than simply using their abilities for personal advancement. This might involve teaching, writing, creating institutions that support development, or modeling higher possibilities through their own example. The ultimate promise of this developmental path is not just personal fulfillment but the gradual elevation of human civilization itself. Each individual who makes the journey from lower to higher levels of intelligence contributes to the collective wisdom available to address humanity's challenges. The person who has learned to destroy their weak self becomes a source of strength for others rather than another drain on collective resources. The journey through the 7 levels of intelligence is perhaps the most important adventure available to human beings. It offers the possibility of transcending the limitations that cause suffering while developing capacities that can contribute to the welfare of all life. Understanding these levels provides a map for this journey, but the actual traveling must be done by each individual through their own sustained effort and commitment. The man who destroys his weak self does indeed become indestructible by others, but not through becoming hard or defensive. Rather, he becomes indestructible through developing such depth of understanding and strength of character that external circumstances can no longer determine his internal state or limit his capacity to respond creatively to whatever life presents. He has internalized the sources of his own security and fulfillment, making him both invulnerable to manipulation and endlessly resourceful in service of others. This is the ultimate promise of understanding and ascending the levels of intelligence, not just personal freedom, but the capacity to become a genuine force for positive change in the world. It is a path that demands everything of those who undertake it seriously, but offers rewards that extend far beyond individual benefit to encompass the elevation of consciousness itself.